contention, the point I want to put before this audience is that art somehow, or the appreciation of art, or the joy we feel from art is hardwired into our brain. It's almost as if the wiring in our brain was made so that human beings could produce art, could find joy in art. Or in our brain, we have areas which specialize in color vision. There are areas which specialize in detecting the object. Okay? So, what art does basically is poke these areas. Those areas are already there, meant for a different function. Artists have learned over time to use these in specific ways. That when you create art, you are actually tapping certain hidden facilities of the brain which were not meant for art, which was meant for hunting, which was meant for mathematics, which was meant for climbing trees or building houses. That the human brain was created to see patterns in the forest. You have to know whether the dappled pattern of black and yellow is a tiger or a leopard, or is it just a shadow? Art capitalizes on that. Art always creates images, and the human brain is always curious and wants to know, what is that? Now, if you look at it for a little while, just look at it for about 15 seconds. Most people say that if you look at it hard enough, the red flowers are moving. Right? How does an artist make the red flowers move? I'll do one thing. I will take the color off. Flowers are gone. Right? Because the artist learned that if you paint the red in the same luminance or brightness as the other colors, it confuses the brain. What happens? Let's go on to another one. See now, like with the color back, you see the. Similarly, the Mona Lisa. It has intrigued art lovers for 5 centuries because of its mysterious smile. But what do we see? When you look at Mona Lisa's eyes, or at the background, you see a smile. Suggested from the shape of the shadows on her cheekbones. But when you see directly, when you look at her mouth, the smile vanishes. Because you're not focusing on this any longer. Okay. Now, why am I talking about this? Because these are, the technicality is not important. What I'm trying to say is that when we do art, we're tapping into the deepest recesses of the human mind. Now, the other thing that one needs to realize, because we are all dealing with children, is that every child is an artist. Except every child artist is a little different from adult artists. In fact, Picasso once said that every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once we grow up. In that sense, every child is a poet. How do we still retain the magic when we grow up? Exposing children to patterns is also a very good way of getting children to develop their brain and their minds. When you see art, when people are exposed to paintings, these are some of the areas of the brain which are activated. As you can see, it's not one area, it's multiple areas. And these are very important areas. I always compare the brain to a car. We have a portion of the brain which we call the amygdala. The name is not important, but it is the part of the brain which is, I again call it the Nike brain, the just do it brain. I like that, let me take it. Okay? Just do it. But this just do it is likely to get me into trouble. He is going to get very upset. Okay? It is all right for alligators and snakes, not for human beings. So, as part of evolution, the human brain has developed other parts, which is like the brakes. There's one part of my brain which is saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Think twice and then do it. Okay, this is the frontal part of the brain. So these are the brakes of the brain. Then, there's another part of the brain which has evolved to allow me to learn that, okay, fine, if I take it from Bhavanji, she will not get so upset. Okay, but if If I take it from him, he will get upset. So let me take it from Pawan. Okay. These are the gears of the brain. Because what do you do with gears in a car? You have to change your gears according to the slope that you are going on. So this is very important for children. Children need to know that you do something during recess, you can do something. You can't do the same thing sitting in class. They also need to know that if I keep doing the same mistake over and over again, that is not good for me. I need to learn, change my strategy. And these are the areas of the brain which, hey presto, these are the areas of the brain which get exercised and which get stimulated when art is presented. In this case, what was happening was children were being shown pictures of paintings. But it could be music, it could be sculpture, anything. But when somebody engages in seeing or creating what we call art, the areas of the human brain which get exercised are the same areas which are responsible for us being human, for us being able to learn, for us being able to understand what the other person is feeling, for us being able to do mathematics. Okay, so and that is an important thing that an important message that I would like to put forward. The adolescent brain is not fully developed. While horses and giraffes, when they come out of their mother's womb, have learned whatever they have to learn for the rest of their life. They can walk, they can run, etc. Human beings, on the other hand, don't. Because human beings have to live and learn in different circumstances. They have to live in, as Eskimos in the tundra. They have to live as people in the Kalahari desert. So human beings have to learn, pick up different skills. So the human brain is partially complete. And with experience, the other parts of the brain get added on to and get remodeled and reshaped. And this is something as teachers and as change agents is something that we need to realize, that at every stage of human development, there are different things that you can do. You can learn languages at the age of 21, but if you do it between the age of 2 and the age of 7, you do it effortlessly, because the human brain is geared for that. If you're trying to learn it at the age of 21, you have to struggle. At the age of 5, kids can learn 7 languages at the same time. You can learn how to paint or draw when you are 35. But if kids are taught to do it by the time they are 15, they become dada. So, again, as teachers, we need to learn that things happen at different stages. I will try and explain. For example, this is a scan of a brain which is 4 years old. If you look at the blues, those are the areas which are most mature. Okay. The front of the brain, up top, is not mature at all. That is the C of the brain. That is the part of the brain which is responsible for values, for judgment, for learning right from wrong. A 4-year-old is not capable of doing that. Now, if you are going to do or give exercises to a 4-year-old to do that, the 4-year-old is not going to learn, or going to learn by rote. It's not going to be there. On the other hand, this is the brain of a 21-year-old. You can see the blue areas. Now, areas which are the areas for executive functions have developed by the time you are 21 years old. Okay. These are what are the executive functions? These are the ability to resist distraction or delay gratification. That, chocolate is there, but I will come and eat it afterwards, not right now. Or working memory, the capacity to do things in your mind. 4-year-olds can't do that. Neither can 10-year-olds. We do a lot of mental mathematics with 10-year-olds, but 10-year-olds actually can't do it. It's a major struggle for 10-year-olds to do. Cognitive flexibility, the ability to appreciate another person's point of view, which is empathy. Okay. These are something that 15-year-olds cannot do. They're just learning. So why am I saying this? For teachers, that is an important thing to know. The other thing that teachers need to know is that there are multiple intelligences. When I went to school and when I went to college, there was only one intelligence. If you could add 4 plus 5 is equal to 9, is it? Then you were intelligent. If like me, you couldn't, you're a dud. Okay. It didn't matter that I could, solve some cube puzzle or something. That wasn't really important. But now we know that there are multiple intelligences, and how intelligent you are, whether you grow up to be a contributing human being, does not only depend on whether you can do 42 square. Everybody talks about brain-based education and all that. I just wanted to say that this is an area which is of great promise, of how we can know, how we can use the understanding that we have from the knowledge of the maturing brain to use it in education. For example, one of the things that we find is that adolescents are very, very susceptible to stress. That we have gone to the top. But because of the way the brain develops, males and females differ on how they respond to stress. So, for males, competition creates stress, making them more receptive to learning. For female children, competition reduces learning. So, at the 10, 11, 12-year-old age, timed math games or quiz contests might be a very good teaching tool for adolescent boys, but it's a very bad tool for girls. So we need to learn some of these things to be able to use it in our teaching ability. Now, one of the things that we also need to focus on is that there are some children in your classes who you know very well. They are either the geniuses in your class or they are the duds in your class. All of your teachers here, do you recognize this child? Always a dreamer, easily distracted, very short attention span, starts things with a lot of interest, then loses interest. Never brings the homework back on time. Always looking for things that they're losing things, late, bored. These are children who always get you into trouble. You met this child who's impulsive, hyperactive, can't sit down. You have met this child. Children who are all the time inattentive, have chronic sadness, they are negative, often feel worthless or helpless. You met this child, very nervous, anxious, all the time looking at what is happening, questioning things. You met this child. This is over-focused and rigid thinking type. Then there's this other type, the bully type, the conduct and oppositional disorder type. Now these are children we recognize. I mean, as soon as I showed it, I could see a lot of teachers' faces bursting into smiles. This one I know. Right? And these are the kids who are either very difficult to teach or they are the geniuses who can't be reached. Now, what do we know about them? The reason I'm bringing this up is this is the area where I actually work. My research is with children who have this kind of behavior. And one of the things that we are finding is that when you look at these children, what I meant to also say was that these children also have a lot of problems. These are the children who later develop legal difficulties, academic problems, problems in relationship, smoking and substance use, alcohol, drugs. These are the children who are at much higher risk for that also. And that is where I come from. But what we are discovering is very, very, very fascinating. That long before these children have started taking drugs or smoking, we find that if you do a brain scan on them, you find that the yellow and the orange portions, these are areas of the brain where these children have smaller brain areas than other children. And so we asked ourselves, what is happening? These areas are also the same areas which I talked about, the engine, the gears and the brakes. So these children appear to have these areas developing at a slower rate than other children. Which is a fascinating finding for us, but a problem for you. It's a fascinating finding for us because for the first time we were able to say that now we know why this is happening. Now we are able to detect why some children are more hyperactive, why they have more inattention, why they are more opposition and all the time fighting. We have further evidence that not only are these areas smaller, the roads, the tracks which link these areas are also more leaky, so less information flows around these tracks. So what? I mean, at the end of the day, why am I talking about this to you? I should be talking about this to neurobiologist convention. The reason I'm talking about these smaller volumes also predict these externalizing behaviors, inattention, impulsivity, hyperactivity, etc. But why is it important to you? It is important to you because of the discovery that we find that art is also brain development. And we are now in a position to use art not just with your normal adolescents, but also with all these children who are in difficulty, children with attentional difficulty, children with problems in sitting down, problems in learning. And I will spend the last part of my talk talking to you about how, what is the evidence for that. Now, how can arts education help? What I've tried to show you is that art is an extension of what the conscious mind is doing for us. Okay. The conscious mind is already doing it. You're using art to just extend it. The brain or the mind selects essential features out of the jumble or the cacophony which is in the world and makes a representation in your mind. Now, the relevant structures in the brain which are revealed by looking at art or doing art are very, very important for human behaviors. So the question is, can art rewire the brain? I have established to you that there seems to be a wiring problem in some children. There is a wiring delay in some children. The question, as far as I am asking myself, is can art help rewire the brain? Okay, what we do know, and this is an experiment carried out by some colleagues of ours in UK, where they showed people photographs and photographs made into an art image, the same photograph made into an art image, you can see. And they found the brain reacts differently to the normal photograph and to the art image. And the areas of the brain which respond to the art image are the areas which are responsible for reward, make you feel good, make you anticipate, want to do more. Exposing children's brains to art excites major areas of the brain. Arts education can cause dramatic changes in the brain by strengthening the attention network. So, arts education, what it does is not only help you to make things better, or paint better, or draw better, but like a general tonic for the brain, it strengthens the attention networks of the brain. So, if I strengthen this, that also gets strengthened. So, that is the value of arts education. Music making seems to promote brain plasticity. Children who are taught to learn music, learn to play music, develop better mathematical skills and better reading skills. It's got nothing to do with music. This is my take-home message to you, that teaching children art or getting children to do art actually strengthens the brain for other activities, for other portions of their life. This is more data on how musical training influences linguistic abilities. Okay, what can dance teach us about learning? Pictures are a good way to learn from. If you look at this colorful picture, you find that the areas of the brain which are excited when children are seeing dance, they are not even dancing themselves, just seeing dance, are the same areas which are active during mathematical reasoning. Therefore, you can show people pictures of dance or get children to dance and actually increase their mathematical abilities. I mean, it's not as simple as that, but you get the meaning. So, the next time somebody says, oh, art should be a separate period, no, art shouldn't be a separate period. Art education should be the basis for a lot of other educational activity. Now, Again, what we find is theatre seems to be the ultimate brain fitness product. There are ties between the areas which are responsible for memory and for imagination. So, if you excite children and give them imaginative activities, the same areas of the brain which respond to imaginative activities are the same areas of the brain which are responsible for memory. I don't have to spell out what I'm talking about. Mindful art therapy. Art is also a form of meditation, because when you are doing something which is artful, it helps you focus and concentrate and cut out all the noise. And this is especially useful in children who have, like I talked about earlier, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, because they can then focus. It's like mindful meditation. You've heard of meditation techniques. Art is a brilliant mindful meditation technique. So basically, what do art programs teach? They teach specific thinking skills which are rarely addressed elsewhere in the school curriculum. They teach children to engage, persist, commit and follow through. They teach people to envision or think ahead, think forward. They teach children empathy, the ability to understand what the other person is feeling. They create connectivity or engagement with another person. They teach children the ability to use metaphor, put two things together and get meaning. Okay. So, in other words, the skills that are taught in teaching arts are easily generalizable. It can be generalized to the real world. Okay. The other thing is that while people associate, this is a slide I do for our IT industry fellows, who always say strategy, this, that. But people associate strategy with rational thinking. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. But the best strategic thinkers show more activity in parts of the brain which are linked to emotion. And again, arts education is a brilliant way of exciting the parts of the brain which help people deal with emotion. And therefore, as I tell my HR friends from the IT industry, that arts education would be a lovely thing if you wanted to bring up a generation of coders, of IT professionals also. It's not only for kids, your run-of-the-mill kids. Arts education is also useful for differently abled kids. It's been used as arts therapy for people with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It's been used for people with depression and even with children and adults who have had strokes, music therapy especially. It's also used for people with Alzheimer's, dementia. This is a very nice experiment that was done. The people who can't even remember where the bathroom is, they can't remember their own name, do better when they are taught to think. So whatever remaining skills are there are coaxed out by art therapy. So imagine if it is doing it for people whose brains are not functioning at all, how much it would be useful for children. I just want to bring this up. I like this word a lot, of digital natives. What has happened to our children is, unlike some of us who were born slightly earlier in time, these days children spend more on technology during classes. They're all the time on something, on the cell phone, twittering. It makes children drift away from the fundamental social skills like reading, talking to friends, etc. So brain circuits which are involved in face-to-face contact, which have been there for millions of years and which make us essentially human, are getting clipped. So what do we do? How can we help? The effect is the strongest in the so-called digital natives, who are people in their teens and 20s who have been digitally hardwired since the time they were born. And these are people who will have problems going on. We are now seeing them having problems. They are essentially losing some part of their humanity because they are talking to machines. What I wish to end saying that the arts is a wonderful brain developer. What does it do? Reaches students who are not ordinarily reached, especially those who are not good in logical activities and math. It helps students connect to one another better. It creates an environment for discovery and creativity. It leads students to become sustained and self-directed learners. And it enhances the learning for students. Here I've written people from lower socioeconomic background, but across the board. It enhances the skills for learning. Full stop. That is my talk in one sentence. That, if I have managed to convince you, all that I want. Art education enhances general skills for learning. Art education enhances general skills for being better human beings. Full stop. That's all that you wish to know.